Hello everyone, welcome to Marlin Chess Kids. Today we'll show you the gameplay by Grzegorz and Alicja. And the game starts with the pawn to d4, knight f6, c4. And here you have the King Indian classical. And after this, the black play d6. Then knight to c3 and knight b to d7. Then e4, and here the black play e5. So in this position, the white continue to play a knight f3, and the black play a g6, preparing to come the bishop and go for a short castling. And this is the first 5 move, and you can see that the white is slightly better with the pawn, 3 pawn attacking in the center of the square, such as this. So the game continue with the white play a bishop to e2, then the black bishop to g7, and now white castling and the black castling. Then the queen to c2, and the black play knight h5. After this, rook to d1, and preparing to capture or to move the pawn forwards. Then knight to f4, preparing to attack the pawn at g2, and also can bring the queen to g5 and capture the pawn. So before this, the black will try to remove the knight at f3 from the board. Then bishop to f1 was played, and after this c5 from the black. Then d5 was played, and now the knight to f6, bring up more of the weapon of the king side. So you bring more of the pieces toward this 16 square as this. After this, bishop takes f4, and e takes f4, then e5 push and attack the knight, and now the knight to e8. After this, queen to e4, trying to capture the pawn, and bishop to g4. So in this idea, if the queen capture the pawn, then the bishop will capture, and after the queen capture, then you have a bishop to capture the pawn at e5, and the game will be in equal position. So at this stage, there is another suggestion that you can play is e takes e5, then d6 was played, can be played, and if you capture with the queen, then the rook can capture back, so the pawn cannot be captured. So after this, the queen can only go to b6, and you have 2 pieces attack the back the pawn. So after bishop to g4, then the white play e takes d6, and now the position is equal after 15 move again. Then now the queen to f6, and you cannot capture the pawn. If you capture if the knight, then the queen will capture the pawn at f4 and attack the bishop, and also attack the knight, at the same time protect the pawn. And if the bishop to capture, then the queen will capture back, and if your knight still cannot capture the pawn because it's protected by the bishop. So after queen to h3 to attack the bishop, and after this the knight capture the pawn at d6 and attack the queen, then the queen to d3, and here the black continue to move a bishop to f5 and attack the queen, and keep on attack and bring up the pieces towards the board. After this, queen to d2, trying to attack the pawn, and after this the black play g5. So at this point there is another should try to play a knight, and this position will be much stronger. So if the knight to capture, then the bishop will capture back. So here the pieces is being minimized and the black is better in this position. And if the knight goes to e4, and if you capture with the queen, for example, then the knight will capture the knight, and after the pawn capture, and here the bishop will go to c2 and attack the rook, and the queen will attack the queen as well. So if the queen capture and go to a trade, and here the bishop will capture back, and now the bishop can keep attack the rook, and another bishop will attack the pawn. If the rook move to c1 or d2 to attack the bishop, for example, the rook move to d2, then the black can just capture the pawn, and now this move the bishop will attack the rook again, and also attack another rook. So this is a 4. So if you capture the bishop, then the bishop will just capture the rook, and here the black is clearly better. If the rook go to c1 to attack the bishop, then the bishop will capture the rook again, and now the rook at a1 are not able to move to any place because the bishop is capturing both of the square. So if the rook move to b1, then the bishop will just capture back, and the rook will just capture either of this bishop, and here the black is clearly better in this position. So in the actual game, after queen to d2, the black played a g5, and after this knight to h2, then e8, and here then the rook to e1 to go for the exchange, but the black do not want to exchange and move the knight forward to attack knight to e4 and attack the queen, and also force the knight to go for the action. So the knight takes knight takes e4, and bishop takes e4, and keep up the pressure at attacking the pawn at g2. Then after this, rook to e2 is a strong move to defend, and here also threatening to play a queen to e1, and the rook can able to capture the bishop. And also if the bishop move away, you're able to capture the rook and check and win a piece. So after this move, the bishop move to g6, and now rook takes the rook, and rook recapture back again. And after this, rook to e1 again, and this is a very good move because the white want to exchange the pieces. And now the rook capture and the queen capture again. After this, queen to e8, and to prevent the pawn of moving forward. And after this, the queen to d2 to add more pieces and trying to push the pawn forwards. And now queen to d6 to block the pawn to move forward. And after this, queen to bishop to d3, and to go for the action. And here the black move h5, keep on the attack by using the pawn storm. Actually the best is to capture the bishop. After capture the bishop, then the queen capture, then the black can capture the free pawn at b2. So h5 was played, and after this, the white play a bishop takes g6, and queen capture the bishop. After this, the white play a d6, and now another two move, the white will able to promote for queen. So in this version, the black block by using bishop to d4, and now the queen can capture the pawn. After this, the white play a knight to f3, and at this stage, the black made one interesting move. G4. So this G4 is to attack the knight, and here it's allowed the black to push the pawn 1-2 step and become a queen. So in this position, if the white capture the bishop, then the white will be a clearly better. And I'll show this example. Knight takes the bishop, then the pawn capture, and going for the pawn g takes h. And after this, the white can just push the pawn to g3, and after pawn capture the g3, then the knight will back and protect the pawn, and here you're winning by a piece. So if the pawn to h2 check, the king will move to h1, and these two pawns will still not ever have the chance to checkmate the king. This, if the pawn takes f2, Then the queen will just capture back, and now the queen takes the d6, and the queen will just capture the pawn at h2, go for the exchange. And after this, queen to d1 and check the king. The queen will just go back to g1, and after queen capture, then king will capture back. And here the white will be clearing better with the extra knight, and the knight will slowly capture the pawn. So after the black play g4, and with the idea that to hope that the black push the pawn forward, and in reality the game is that the white do really push the pawn forward to g7 to d7, and after this the black capture the knight, f takes, g takes f3. Here the queen have the idea, and here is a very checkmate. Queen takes g2 will be a checkmate. So in the actual game, the white push the pawn to d8 and check the king, and now the king can just move to h7 to prevent the further check from the white. And after this, the white play a g4 to prevent the checkmate. However, with these two queen, it is too late for the white to prevent the check and winning the game, and there is no with the two you can win the game, because after this the great move is that the black can go for n person, a special move of the pawn by playing f takes g3. And now again the pawn is attacking the pawn, and to allow a double attack, and still the white still not able to checkmate the black king. So after this position, king 8 to g5, and after this the black is winning and mate in 5. I give you a couple of seconds to figure out how the black can win and mate in 5. Well, congratulations for those who found the answer, and for those who like to ensure the show, here are the moves. In the actual game, after queen block the attack, the black play a pawn takes f2 and check the king, and these both queens are interconnected. So if any one of the queen move the bishop, the queen can be captured. So if the white capture the pawn, then the queen just capture the promoted queen. Queen takes the queen, and after this, if the king move to f1, then the queen will just go to c1 and check the king. And after this, the king has no place to move except to block with the queen, and now the queen do not need to capture the queen. Instead, the queen go for capture the c4 and have the diagonal attack. So diagonal attack. And now the king again has no place to move and only to block with the queen, and now queen takes e2 to be the check. And again back to the position after g takes f2, then the king move to f1, and here queen will go to b1, very strong check the king, and the king cannot come out, and the bishop is protecting the pawn and check the king. And now the king can move again, so the only way to play is to block with the queen. And if the queen come to c1 and block, then the queen will just move to d3 and check the king. Idea to checkmate. And the king have no place to move. And back to this version, if the king move away from the check, for example move to these two square, let's say move to h1, then the pawn will just promote, become a queen and check the king. And now king move to h2, then you have queen to g1 and check the king. And now after queen capture, then you capture again and checkmate the king. And if the king move to h2, then you have the bishop diagonal attack, bishop to e5 and check the king. And now again the king has only one move to move, and if the king move to h1, then the pawn will just promote the queen and check the king. And here again the queen block, and you just use either of this queen to capture and checkmate. So it's a very interesting idea. And if the bishop check, if you block with the queen, for example queen d to f4, then you can just capture with the bishop or capture the queen. So for example, if you capture with the bishop, and now the queen cannot capture because it's being pinned by the bishop. And if the queen capture the bishop, then the queen to g2 or g1, and it will be a checkmate. So with this, thank you.